joining me as Shadow Transport Minister, the Nationals Senator Bridget McKenzie. Bridget McKenzie, thanks for your time. All right, which of Catherine King's 4 excuses for banning those Qatar flights do you believe, and are any of them good enough?
Andrew, you absolutely opened it beautifully. 7 weeks, 7 different reasons from all manner of ministers. We had the human rights reason, you recall, as well. And then the latest is the national interest. Yes, the national interest. Now, I was able to ask Penny Wong, the Foreign Minister, in the Senate today, well, how are we defining the national interest today? What were the specific pieces, criteria that the Minister considered in making her decision? And Penny Wong could not tell us. So everywhere you look at the Albanese government on this matter, they are all over the shop and they're clearly divided. Not speaking as they should and collaborating as they should. And who misses out? The Australian travelling public.
Well, it's notable, isn't it, that a couple of Labor states are now saying, listen, lift this ban. We want the ban. The Prime Minister says he didn't talk to Qantas about the ban beforehand, but he did talk to someone from Virgin, someone unnamed, I presume, the CEO. What do you make of his answers?
Well, I find it curious. I find it extraordinary that a decision of this magnitude from one of his most senior ministers in the government, that she didn't go and call into the Prime Minister's office and check that they were okay. She's made statements publicly that she always makes decisions by collaborating with the appropriate ministers and colleagues. Well, it seems in one of the most impactful decisions she's made thus far in her portfolio, she's failed to even consult the former Shadow Transport Minister, the now Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. It's incredible, and I think really vindicates our push to set up a specific inquiry into this decision so that we can fully understand what the real reason was, because it's hard not to think that it wasn't the cosy relationship between the former CEO and the now Prime Minister that made this decision occur.
Yeah. Well, before I get into that inquiry that you managed to get set up today, here's another thing we don't know. Why did Qantas not tell the public months ago that it was being investigated by the ACCC, the competition watchdog, for selling thousands of tickets on flights it had already cancelled? And, you know, this obviously has an impact on what you think Qantas is worth, because it's going to cost Qantas. And why did it, meanwhile, let Alan Joyce, its CEO, sell $17 million of his Qantas shares in June, when we do know of this ACCC case, those shares are worth almost $3 million less. Are you worried about that?
Absolutely, Andrew. I asked specific questions of the CEO in last week's Senate inquiry about the cosy deal he'd set up for himself around his share acquisitions and ability to sell them in the year where Qantas makes a profit, having had to go and pay it forward, shall we say, over many, many years. Very cosy deal for that arrangement. The COVID flight credits. I mean, we've got Australians who are struggling to pay the mortgage and their energy bills at the moment. Last thing on their mind is international travel, and yet Qantas has been sitting with nearly $500 million of their money on their balance sheet instead of back in the pockets of Australian travellers, and we were able to get that overturned last week as well. And when you go to the matter before the ACCC, I mean, if that turns out to be true, that is absolutely egregious behaviour. So at every turn, not just his personal reputation, but the reputation of Qantas itself has been tarnished, and I believe, fundamentally, the Albanese Labor government on the way through.